today we're going to be talking about breaking generational curses. So today I have my cousins here with me, my beautiful, lovely cousins. We always talk, we always share with each other, and so we just want to share one of our conversations with y'all. And like I said, we're going to be talking about breaking generational curses. This is my cousin Kissy.
Hi.
This is my cousin Teresa.
Hello.
And this is my cousin Shahida, aka Peggy. We're gonna jump into it. So the first topic that we wanted to talk about was sex and relationships.
Let's see. With me, my mama's explanation of sex was horrid. She just was like, I can't even remember how old I was. I probably was like 13 or 14. And she was like, I'm not finna, I know people talk about the birds and the bees, but ain't no bee doing nothing with no birds, so I'm not gonna say that. Just know, if you do it, you get pregnant, and it's gonna hurt. She just went in. So when I had the conversation with my daughters, I try to have it with them. It kind of depends on phones and what they're doing and what I'm seeing in it. Mm-hmm. And I actually just have a conversation of, I don't do dating till they're 16. That's just a no. But even when they do date, I don't do them over my house and things of that nature. They go somewhere in public.
Right.
But those conversations was more like, just talk about it, let me know. We can do birth control because you don't want kids. So I did talk about birth control. I am one of those parents. It's good to use condoms because I would always tell them, you can get something that you can't get rid of. I say, you can get rid of a baby, but there's some STDs and stuff like that you can't get rid of. And I also did, they had to do a sexual transmitted disease research. So they had to research chlamydia. They had to research gonorrhea, so they could see the
That'll
pictures.
Change your perspective.
I know. I'm like that though. I think it's better to give them research to look at it because, when they were going into junior high, I had them do a drug research. Okay. So you can see what happens when you get on this drug. You can see pictures because Googling, you see it. So you see the pictures and everything, just so it can get in her head, like,
exactly.
This is what happened. So that's how I went. How about you?
Well, for me, of course, I have a mother that is very I tell her she's very real. My mother has
unconventional.
She has no. I told her she has no tact when she do things in that sense, but she's very real. She's very honest. And I think sometimes she's too honest, but I can appreciate that. So when I came up, she just came to me one day, shortly after I had started my my period, and she was like, "Do you pray?" So I'm thinking she's talking about Jesus. I don't know what she's talking about, and so she goes into a definition of what she meant, about pray. And that kind of started the conversation.
What did she mean?
She meant oral sex. She was asking me if I pray, if I've done or do oral sex, but I didn't know the terminology what she meant. So that let her know further that I didn't.
She the only one knew that terminology.
Pray, exactly. But when it came to my kids, I liked that conversation me and my mother had. She was very honest. Mm-hmm. So I was very honest with my kids, but I felt like with these kids nowadays, you got to give them a little bit more information because they're online.
Access to everything.
Exactly. So I had to go into explaining to them how sex can affect you. When should that be a good idea for you to have sex? And like I tell my kids, sex is what I call an adult act. Mm-hmm. Right now, you are a kid, you're a young person, and you need to stay in that instance of your life. Because when you start doing the adult things, then that means now you need to be doing the adult things, paying bills and all of that. So
responsibility comes with adult things. Yeah.
So, but what I did with my kids, we had that conversation about sex. Of course, Dad stepped in too because we have a boy, and I had them to go online. We had found this movie called Teeth, and it was about this girl. It's called Teeth.
Okay.
It had this girl who every time she would have intercourse with someone, that her private area would chop off their private area. And so it was.
Y'all sex education is scared
Yeah.
straight.
So the kids were watching it, they were looking at me like, does it do that? And
Yeah.
I didn't say yes and I didn't say no. I just like, what do you think?
Right.
You know, kind of left it for their imagination. But I'm also with Shahida. I do believe that a kid, when it comes to dating, I think about 16 is a good age for a kid, because at that time they've matured enough, they've accepted their identity at that time, and you're not having to worry so much about them now trying to kind of direct themselves to how other people feel and what they think, because they already grew into themselves at that point.
You
So,
trust them a little bit more.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah. I think growing up, like for me, like I learned about sex in junior high when we did that sex education course. They all brought us into the auditorium. They showed us the pictures of like herpes and chlamydia. And so I was always scared. After I saw that, I was like, I'm not having sex, I'll get married. Like that was my first like thoughts of having sex. Like
And I
nobody gonna
think
give
that's
me
why
nothing.
your aunt had the conversation with me was because she was signing that paper, and that was her way of just like.
Yeah, because my mom never had the formal talk with me. Like I remember being curious about sex, like when I did hit 16 or 17, and I asked her, because I always kind of knew, like what you said, like it hurt, like you could have babies and stuff like that. So I wanted to know. So I remember asking her, and I was like, does sex hurt? And like I could tell, like her antennas went up. She's like, what you mean, do sex hurt? And so I was immediately like, okay, maybe I asked the wrong question.
Yeah.
And then she was like, yeah, well, it's uncomfortable. Like when she realized I was just asking out of curiosity, she was like, it's uncomfortable. It don't hurt. She was like, but you want to make sure, you giving yourself to somebody who's, not gonna hurt you or make it hurt even more. But she kind of explained it to me, and then of course she asked me, so who you planning on having sex with? And so I'm like, nobody. No, I want to wait till I get married. And of course you're like, So that was kind of like our sex talk. Like we didn't really have anything bursting the beads formal, like nothing. I saw that in like 8th grade. I determined then that I don't want none of them little bumps. And then I talked to her about that, and that was pretty much it for me. So as far as like what I would want to teach my kids, like I feel like 16 is a good age, but I feel like realistically, I started liking boys when I was like 11, 12. I started wanting to have boyfriends. So I feel like when I grew up, I felt like dating boys and talking to boys was such a big taboo. Like they couldn't call the house. You couldn't, if you said a boy was your friend, it was still like, nah, like, y'all liking each other, So I always kind of felt like boys were like this kind of mystic thing that we couldn't get or something.
The X on the box, you can't have that.
Yes. And I felt like it made me want boys in relationships more, because I kind of feel like it was a taboo. Oh, I can't have a boyfriend. Why not? Like, oh, I'm not supposed to like boys, or I'm a girl. Why I can't like boys? It felt like I was kind of like define my parents by liking boys, or define like what my mama and papa told us. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it was always like a taboo thing to me. That's how I saw it, like sex and relationships. Like, and even when I turned 16 and tried to date, like I remember when papa was telling my mom, like, she's too young, like, she don't need to date nobody till she 18, like, and I always felt like, dang, I ain't gonna never be old enough, like, what I'm saying? So I just want my kids, if I ever do have kids or adopt kids, like, I want them to feel like when they first start liking boys, they can come to me and they can talk to me about it. I'm not necessarily gonna let you go on a real date probably till you 15, 16, but if you're already liking boys at 12 and 13, like, I can do like an approved outing, like where I go out, I'm supervising y'all, like stuff like age appropriate stuff. But I don't necessarily feel like I want to put like, you're not doing this till you're 16, or you're not doing this till you're 17, because I feel like that doesn't encompass reality. Like, what do you do with those feelings from 12 to 16?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what do you
like him on the low?
You know,
Look,
Well,
but
you
it,
have to have a
but it
boy
creates
and
like a
friend.
You don't think it creates like a sneaky kind of thing towards relationships when you can't do something and you want to get to it so bad? You know
what? It does, but at the same time, it can work in both favors because they gonna have an at-school boyfriend.
Okay.
You might even talk on the phone every so often. You ain't gonna, cause you can't be in your room too long. Like, I don't like all of that.
Mm-hmm.
You gonna have a person like that, but I think it causes them to go a little slower. And then if a guy is way above their speed, say they're 14 and the person they're liking is a senior, you're not gonna get to do a lot of things girls his age is gonna do. So a lot of time it keeps them moving on.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those things. They gonna have, they're gonna have it. It's just that it's so many stipulations to where, especially when it comes to that high school age, if they're freshmen and juniors and seniors are looking at them,
Mm-hmm.
they're not gonna get to do stuff like the juniors and seniors. So those boys, if they're fast on a different level than them, they just gonna be like, whatever, I'm just gonna go to
She
somebody
can't
who
leave the
can.
house. She can't do
Yeah,
that. You know,
but if they really like them, they will take that slower approach and they get to actually build. You see what I'm saying?
That makes sense, yeah.
So it kind of, I understand what you're saying because they're gonna do it
Mm-hmm.
and they're gonna sneak, but you can only sneak. Well, mine can only sneak so much because I really don't let my kids go places like that. They don't hang out at people's houses. That's a big no to me. They go to the mall, so they might be meeting them at the mall, but that's in front of everybody. You see what I'm saying?
True, yeah.
So it's still a big, arena. They ain't going to house party. They ain't hanging out nobody from house. We ain't doing all of that. That's just how I am. I'm very particular.
Okay.
Well, you're right about that when it comes to your kids and you start setting those grounds. Because like me, like I said, in my mind, a kid at 16. But I found like with my children, my kids were going to a private school previously, before they started going to public school. And so in private school, they were teaching them like, you guys are supposed to, love each other, but not in the sense of a relationship because y'all too young for that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then when they started going off to the public school, I remember a time where they had just gotten there. They had been there maybe about 2 or 3 months.
And the private school was Christian?
No, the private school was very Christian.
Okay.
Yeah, like they go to church. They had chapel. Their uniforms all the same. The girls' uniforms had to be a certain length. Certain. It was very Christian, and that was the reason why I put them in there. For the Christian part, I want them to know about God and get all that I got the opportunity to get. But when they got to the public school, they were there maybe 2 or 3 months, maybe. And I remember them coming home and saying, "Mama, everybody has a girlfriend and a boyfriend, and we don't have one." So I had to have that conversation with my kids, and I had to explain to them, you're gonna see a lot of things going into a private school that you didn't see in the public school that you didn't see in the private school because everybody's lifestyle a little different. And I had to explain to them they're having boyfriends and girlfriends, but that doesn't mean that you have to have a girlfriend and boyfriend. Truth be said, your responsibility in school is to learn.
Right.
You need to be there learning everything you need to learn about life because guess what? That is what you need to learn. It's not about having a boyfriend or girlfriend, because you're going to always have plenty of time for boys. You're going to always have plenty of time for girls. They're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, whether you wait till you're a senior in college, you will always see a woman, always see a man. So
no. Don't tell me what other people,
But
they
you
don't
are
live
right.
at 8:15. You do.
That's right.
But
I
then,
said, what goes on in this house stays in this house.
But I don't care what everybody else doing at school. They don't live in my house.
Okay.
but
I'm not
they
responsible
started
for them.
feeling like that
They
needed to fit
because-
in. So I will find out like they have these secret girlfriend and boyfriend. So then that's when I had to start establishing, okay, if we were in a scenario of you having a girlfriend or a boyfriend, these are the criteria of having it. 1, you need to be passing your classes and doing good in school. 2, you need to not involve your life just around that person. You need to still be doing your regular activities.
That's a good
sports,
one. That's a good
things like that. I said, and the third, The main thing is we gotta have a relationship where you can come to me and talk to me, and not only that, that person you're talking to, we know who they are.
Yeah. I guess for me, like my mom didn't, like you, we didn't have the talk. I just remember seeing my mom and dad. They were married and they had a long marriage. And that's what married people do, you know. And so sex was never a conversation. The only thing I got was don't have sex.
Right.
And so I recall, and because my sister, you know, Sonya, she had a baby at a young age, so that was the thing. Don't have sex because you're gonna get pregnant. Sex equals pregnancy regardless.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was my thinking process, that you automatically got pregnant from sex. There's really not a talk of disease like that. It was, you just kind of learned it from school, the sex education classes. So there was no talk about it. You just know that, you know, mom and dad is married. So, you know, once you learn that, that's how you get here from sex. So obviously they had to have sex. As far as with my kids, I didn't want to create an unhealthy thought process about sex with them. I didn't want them to think that it was just so bad that, you know, I didn't want to harp on the negative things on it. So I did talk to them about sex, but also I originally always related it to marriage. Sex is only for marriage and no other time, not before, nothing. Once the reality hit that, I recall, because, you know, me and their dad, we met, I was 9, he was 10. So once the reality hit that we started dating at a younger age, and I remember my feelings at that time and how I felt about him. It wasn't necessarily sex, excuse me, but I knew that at that time, like, okay, there's something that I'm feeling for him, and I know that, you know, when you get married, you're supposed to have sex, but what if it happens before then? And so I just, I started making things like relate and just being in reality and being present and making sure that I wasn't just like, because my mom always was just like, let's not talk about it. It was so uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't, and in fact, I can't really recall anybody in the family talking about it like that. Well,
no penalty.
You're right.
My mama had 0.
Yeah, she was one of the people that actually, and Chris and Peggy was always on a real point. They were never, you know, afraid to talk about things and afraid to give you some insight on it. So, but just to be, I guess, but it was always a negative connotation with it.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? It was
Yeah.
always negative about it, and it is bad. You know, when you're younger, you don't need to be thinking about doing it or any of that. But I struggled with trying to figure out how to teach my kids that it's a great thing, it's a wonderful thing. Sex can be beautiful, but in the right time and in the right situation,
Exactly.
and with the right person. So I think, as far I never really heard, like I told them about diseases. I told them about, you know, all those types of things that can happen, but also I think I was focused more on the positive side of it and how it can be a beautiful thing, and how life is created with it, and how God is pleased with it, and you know what I'm saying, when you're married. And so as far as with them, like with dating, I didn't put an age on it. I didn't say, you know, I think I always said sex is for marriage. But as far as them dating, I just kind of always said that I would know with my own kid. And I would tell each one of them. Now, the standard rule is, you know, by the time, only because I started talking to their dad at a young age, because I know it's possible to have that connection and that feeling for a person early. So I always said that, okay, by the time they hit the 6th grade, I'm going to start being, you know, I was always paying attention, but just being, watching them and seeing how they're turning out. Are they fast? Like they use that terminology with us. Are they being fast? Are they being boy crazy? Are they wanting to be in sports, or are they more caring about themselves?
Just watching kind of how they
boys?
naturally develop.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I started watching it about the 6th grade. So I told them, okay, At about the 6th grade, 7th grade, because at that time, 6th and 7th grade was being 6th grade in junior high. So I'm like, okay, 6th grade, and I told him my exact words was, it's normal for you to like a boy. Because I have all girls, so it's normal for you to like a boy. It's normal for you to look at him and think, oh my God, he's cute. There's nothing wrong with that. Because I remember feeling God awful for thinking like that at some point. You know, I just like, oh my God, you have no business thinking like that. Because that makes you fast. And so I always wanted them to know that that's perfectly normal. We were designed and created to like the other person. We're designed and created to love either the opposite sex and now sometimes the same sex now with some of the kids. So that's normal. So when you feel like that, don't stop it. It is what it is. Now, when you get to the point, okay, yes, you're too young to put a title on it. You're absolutely too young to put a title on it, but you're not too young to have friendship. Friendship is good. Developing a healthy friendship. Sometimes you have the best relationships out of friendship. Okay, 6th grade, 7th grade, now let's watch your grades. Let's watch your grades, your behavior, how you doing in school, how you doing at home with your parents. As long as you haven't turned into this wild child by the 8th grade, if you're ready to say, okay, mama, I think I actually like somebody, you know, then it's okay, hey, who's that person that you like? You know, and then one of the girls like, well, I gotta tell you who they are. Well, yeah, I want to know. You know, I want to know because I want to be able to tell you, hey, watch out for this, watch out for that. I want to meet that person eventually. Another thing, you're not gonna have 5 and 6 boyfriends. You know, you don't have to settle down with one, but you take it one at a time. And everybody's not gonna be that person for you.
So you ain't gonna have your whole face in my house.
And we do, as young ladies, we do like boys. We naturally are attracted to boys.
If you think about that for me, that attachment and that love theory with boys, for me, it started with TV.
Yeah.
It started with
TV. I call it Disney princess syndrome.
We were kind of born and bred to say, okay, I'm a little girl. I have to find me a prince. I have to find me somebody that's gonna come and save me. I gotta find this boy that I like and that he like me.
That's so weird.
And we live happily ever after.
And we gotta have a happily ever after ending story. We got this. Because I often hear women say, and I've been thinking about my wedding since I was a little girl, and that's something I never did. I never got that far as planning a wedding.
I did.
I just wanted the love part. Like I wanted the person. I didn't care about the wedding. I didn't think about that, and I don't know if it's because I couldn't dream that big.
I didn't think about
I
it.
thought
I
about
didn't
the
think about
house and the white picket fence. I always had that vision. I already knew.
Well, that part,
in my
I jumped
head
straight to
what
that. I didn't go to no wedding.
I knew what kind of
did.
house I wanted him to put me in.
Yeah.
I knew how many kids we
You
were
know
gonna
what?
have.
I wonder
I
why.
knew how tall he
I
should
never
be.
was like that.
I always had that vision, and I think that's where that love part came from me.
Like I used to play that. We used to play that game,
idea.
that MASH game, where you kind of figured out how many kids you was gonna have.
Yeah.
I used to love
On the
that
paper,
game.
you remember that?
Yeah,
I
can't. You know what? I think my brain is more practical, and I don't know if it's because I had the multiple religion upbringing. You know, I was raised Muslim and Christian, and the idea of I had to get married was not the idea of visualizing my husband, and I knew I wanted 3 kids. And it's not because I love kids, and that's what it was. I really strategically thought how many kids would work, and I was like, well, if I have one, and something happened to him, then I'm alone for the rest of my life.
Oh wow!
If I have 2, and one of them die, and the other one don't like me, I would be in an old folks' home. So if I have 3, one of them gotta like me. One of them gotta like me.
Somebody
and
gotta
take care of me when I'm older. I've always been I had to be in my teens. I've always 3 was my number because of that. Cause you know Abdul and Louis' husband raised me, and they raised me to be independent. And you're taught about Allah and you are taught the respect and things of that nature, but at the same time they didn't teach me to be dependent.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just the way we were brought up and the way we were raised and how we had a lot of strong women around us. So we had a little mixture of everything. We had the love and the
long relationships, because a lot of our parents and grandparents
so
was
we
married
had
for a long time.
Yeah, so we had all of that. We had all those good examples of what relationships supposed to look like. We also seen, you know, the negative parts of it as well. So we knew that there's the highs and the lows in your relationship. So it was, we never were blind to that. But I just never thought like, oh, I gotta get married and I just pictured it as a whole.
I mean, I did plan on getting married. I just never really thought about how it worked and what I wanted.
I thought it was automatic. Like you're grown and then you get married. You
Yeah.
have to.
Yeah.
I always thought that was a have to. That was a must. Like there's no other way to live other than husband and wife. You know.
But see, my
because it
dad
was
always
nothing.
told me that after high school comes college. After college, then that's when you start settling down in your career, and then you know settle down and get married, and then you start producing children, and that's the process and the way I was taught.
If we think about it, like most people find their husband in college, so
That's true.
It's
I learned recently about the Mrs. degree. They said a lot of girls
Yeah.
go to school to find their
them,
husband.
them
I didn't know
them
that.
private school girls.
Really?
Oh, yes.
They
Yes.
already
I work
picture
with
form.
I work with like people who make money like that and their kids, their daughters get married. They really do. Like they probably go to school with it for an English degree or something.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
they really going to
Meet
Find
some,
that professional
yeah.
Somebody
So-
prestigious and distinct.
Yeah, so but that's really how I feel like in order to break, like we're going back to the subject, to break those, curses or whatever.
Generational curses.
Is one of those things because you have to teach that. I was a teenage mother.
Okay.
My mother I had my first kid at 16. My mother had her first kid at 16. Our grandmother had her first kid a little younger than that. My biggest thing was I want all my girls out of high school, hopefully done with college before they have children.
Yeah.
So far, I'm 2 for 2. I gotta get justice out of there.
Right.
But that is my thing, and that goes back to the sex. That's the reason why I was more like looking. I watched, and anytime I saw them kind of getting serious, birth control.
Yeah.
So it was. It's that. So that's part of trying to break those curses because I really wanted it to stop with me with teen pregnancy.
Yeah.
And I was a little, but my mom helped with that too because she could have been like other moms, and that's your baby, da 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 da. You do it. My mom was like, you can have it because I was like wanting to give her for adoption or whatever, and she's like, no, I'll help you with it. You can still be in drill team. You can still do X, Y, and Z. If you want to still go off to college, you can still do that. I was going to go into the service. She was going to take custody of my daughter, so I could do that. So she was really
That was a curse breaker for her, for y'all,
for me because I could still live my life.
Yeah, because she didn't get that
And
opportunity.
graduate in the top 12% of my class. I took a year off to try to get a car and stuff like that. But my mom was willing to
So
keep
she
my
made
kid.
sure you didn't feel limited because you messed up.
Yeah, she made sure and put me in a
To her, it wasn't
situation
even a
where
mess up.
it wasn't even a mess up. And even though like the dad wanted us to get married and their family wanted us to get married, she was adamant like, no, you're too young.
That's just why.
And just think if I would have got married at 16, I probably would have had about 5 kids after that. And that person was no good.
Benefits.
So it was like, I didn't break it by myself.
Yeah.
It took my mom to help me to get me in a situation
So she
where I
broke a
can do it.
generational curse from her to you.
Yeah, she wasn't able to break it with me, but she was able to help me through it, so it wouldn't happen with our
No,
children.
I meant the curse of not getting support. You know,
Mhm.
because
Yes, she
That's
didn't get
what I'm-
support.
a lot of moms will say you on your own. You didn't have a
Yeah.
kid. You grown. You know, and she
Mhm.
didn't do you like
She
that,
didn't-
and that
she did
changed the
not.
trajectory for you.
Yes,
Yeah.
it
So-
changed everything.
You
I
brought
was
up
able to
the-
go to college and everything.
You brought up so I kept hearing y'all say, as far as like the birth control, I struggled with that by having 3 girls. And so I have been going back and forth, like, do I do it? Do I not? Do I put them on birth control, or do I just say no? Because from my understanding, from the growing up, from our family, it's like,
Give them permission.
you're giving them permission, and I can hear mama saying it in my head, like,
Well, I can tell you
don't
something
do that.
medically
You're
about
giving them
that.
permission
But
to
the
have
thing
sex,
is,
and it's
you
like,
don't have to give them permission to do
Right.
it. They're going to do it. So, do you want to give them permission? Since I was a teen mom,
yeah,
I knew the struggle. I knew I was headstrong,
yeah,
but I know I'm not in the same place as my mom.
Mhm.
I work. I still have kids. I can't help them like my mom
Yeah.
helped me.
yeah.
And my mom, she was here, so my mom they could have my mom to
Yeah.
fall back on back then, but I couldn't do it. And I knew had I been on birth control once my mom
Mhm.
really knew I was dating somebody,
Mhm.
because she had that philosophy, the permission, so she didn't do it for me.
Mhm.
And then I don't think Medicaid paid for it, or Medicare, wherever it is, they didn't pay for it back then either. So
And also back, but you have to think about that too. In their time, and that was embarrassing for you to to say, okay, my kid's taking birth control, because that made you look like a bad parent. Like you saying,
but
okay,
you didn't even
my
have to
child
tell
can
them.
have-
Well, keep
Well, I
in
mean, like
mind,
if people
too,
around you know, like for
Yeah.
them, it was always like, dang, you giving your kid birth control, so you also got the pressure of everybody else in your ear telling you, you know, you don't have to tell nobody, but come on, our family talk.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
they probably do.
And so-
Denasia was
Oh,
running
she
at
on
an
birth
early
control
age.
now.
Yeah, you automatically assume that you're having
She's
sex
finna,
because
she's
you
finna start having sex, or
because
she
you are.
fast, or something like
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
but when they found out Denasia was on it, it was more so like, okay, and she
Yeah,
ain't
but
gonna
that
be
depends
me.
on
Look,
who you
I was,
talk to,
oh no, even with my mama, I was just like, yeah, ain't no
No,
teenage
when I
babies
say
around
that-
this month.
when I say
Like,
that, I'm talking about-
look, I'm too young to be a grandma.
I'm just like the rest of the family. You don't
But
know
that's a
other
good
family
perspective,
members.
though.
What other family members we're talking about.
Yeah, but even like I think ain't picking them because
Yeah,
you know
my
they
mom
talk too
would.
much.
Mhm.
But
And my mom told her, my mom would tell her, you make sure you change that patch every time you're supposed to, and you make sure you put it right here. My mom was giving her
yeah,
advice.
because
and
of the
that's
simple
it.
fact is I'm too young to be a grandmother, and I'm trying to break the generation of teen pregnancy
And
in my house.
I can see both sides. I can see your side because it's like, if I go ahead and just prevent it, whether you have sex or not, nothing's coming through there.
Yeah,
Like, you know what I'm saying?
yeah, it wasn't.
And that's
they
from
were
your
in a
perspective
relationship.
because, like you said, I had a kid when I was 16.
Yeah, I didn't just do
You know what I'm
it.
saying?
I didn't just do it. Oh, they this age. I'm gonna put them on there like her mom
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
I was at the stage where, oh, she's been with this person this long. You
And
know,
then
maybe
there is
I
a possibility because now she's driving, so she can
Yeah.
get off of work early or something,
Free time.
detour.
Mm.
You know,
Well, all
all
you
little
need is
tricks
15
and
minutes.
you know what I'm saying? You gotta call, you need is a park. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying? So,
Well, see, I
little
had two
seclusion.
cousins,
So
That's
that's
true.
all you need.
I've been working on a lot of removing those old things that we learned growing up.
Mhm.
Like, I'm so big on that. I'm so big on, let me re-examine everything that I've been taught.
Yeah.
Because then it was the golden rule. And now, I set the golden rules of my own life. And so now that I look at it like, okay, I set my own golden rules depending on the situation, I need to determine what's best for my kids.
Y'all two have boys. Just to kind of pivot a little, y'all two have boys. What do y'all teach them about like accepting no and like consent? Like,
Baby, my son knows now. No means no. Like for real, that's with all things. Because of things goes on. I mean, to the taking a toy from somebody. no means no. I am real big, and you would hear them tell each other that, like, no
Yeah.
means no, because I really wanted to get that in their head that no means
Yeah.
no. Ain't no maybe, ain't no
Yeah.
probably.
Forcing nobody.
So from the age 4 or 5, they've been hearing no means no.
Yeah. Well, with Mondre, what I did with him is, so I had to, because I say my son, he's not quite, he likes girls, of course, but you could tell that he's not in that perspective of you need to worry about him.
Okay.
But when it comes to the word no, what I did was, so I kind of related to his sisters. Like you know, boys, I don't know what it is about boys and their siblings. They tend to want to nag, harass, and literally drive them crazy.
Of course.
So I use that as an example, and I tell them, I said, listen, you know, when a girl tells you no and stop and quit, or or she look some kind of way, you stop what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I said, right now you don't understand why I am saying this, but I'm gonna give you a good example for you to understand. When a girl tells you to stop, she really do mean it. Even if she kind of laughs it off a bit, you stop. The word stop is stop, period.
Exactly.
But as he got older, so now he's 15, about to be 16. So of course now I get to tell him in that reasoning of why. And like I explained to him, I don't want you to become a statistic like some young men have. And unfortunate that they've been in that situation, because you do have young men that get put into a situation that they wasn't even prepared for, because they thinking, oh, she said I can rub her on her back. Oh, she said it's okay for me to hug
Or like you
her.
said, she said no, but she was laughing
about it.
Yeah.
You know, so they think, you know, she really didn't mean it. So then somehow, some way, they in this big old situation, this legal ground. Now they a registered sex offender, all this
Exactly.
craziness over something so simple as no and stop. So
And we live in predominantly white areas,
Yeah.
and my kid plays sport. He's damn good at his sport. He's only 8, but he's damn good. Every team he tried out for, they wanted him on their select team. But we're in predominantly white areas. I don't want no confusion.
Yeah.
I don't want no. Becky talking about, you can't say nope.
yeah.
But we gonna stop this now, because we don't want them kind of problems, because you're not gonna be an average person. You're gonna be an athlete. So I'm quite sure he will be in something, because he's just so competitive. You're gonna be an athlete. You might not be a 5-star. You might not be, but wearing a uniform, you could be a bench rider. They don't care. You an athlete, and they like athletes. Women like athletes. So you have to know it now. So that's kind of why I'm like that too, because I don't want no problems. I don't want
And
no.
with me having all girls, I even on the opposite side of it, I always have tried to teach my kids to, because I remember being young, and I remember saying no, but I remember laughing with the no.
Exactly.
And I remember thinking, God, I don't want him to think I'm scared, but I want him to stop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I have always made sure that the girls understand no, and to make sure they know how to, because one of the girls was in an incident where she said no and she was still violated. And so from that point on, I didn't realize that, you know, that's something that they would be subject to. I assumed that they already knew, you know, that when you tell somebody to stop, you make them stop. But that wasn't the case. So now, from that mom, that happened to her when she was in the 6th grade. And so from that moment on, I began to speak with them and just tell them, you have to stand on what you're saying. You tell them no. I don't care if you're laughing about it or whatever, but you let a person know that you're serious. But you don't put yourself in a position where you feel like you got to choose them over you, because it's what you want for yourself.
Yeah.
You know, don't worry about anybody thinking about you being scared or lame, as they use the word. or any of those things, because now you being violated and you're uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're forced to do something you really don't want to do.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Right.
also too, when stuff like that happens to young ladies, when they're younger, it do affect their relationship as they get older. And most of the time, when like a young lady becomes a young woman and a grown woman, they are still affected by that. So it also affects the way they deal with their relationships as a whole.
Exactly.
So then, like when a person touch them a certain way, that person don't understand why they kind of pulling back, kind of feeling have that look on their face like they're uncomfortable, but they're not understanding why. That's why.
Right.
So I do agree with you. Every young lady should be taught and be advised and be instructed that when you say no, it's no.
There's
Right.
so much peer
And,
pressure out
yeah.
here. The peer pressure is so strong. It's stronger than it ever been to
And
me.
don't be afraid to
from
tell
my
people.
And
Yeah,
that's
what
why
you
I'm so extra
Okay.
with my kids.
Yeah.
Like from day one, Jax can tell
And
you.
not just
the
sex, don't
little-
say,
the
you
little
can say
ones.
no to anything.
You don't want to wash the dishes.
Hey,
No,
look.
I don't want to wash
Yeah.
the dishes.
Even this,
You gonna get
right
nervous.
And
now.
speaking of that, on a generational level, it's funny you just said that. On a generational level, how much were we taught to speak up for ourselves?
We was
How
not.
how many times were we
Well,
able
in
to
my
say, you know
house-
what? Well, not now. I'm talking about.
No, I'm talking about then.
Yeah.
In my house when I was young, we did have an open door policy. I can tell my mother that she is wrong. I'd be like, well, Mom, can I talk to you? She'll say yes. And I'll tell her, well, earlier today you got mad at me for whatever reason, and I just felt like it was wrong for you to say that I did it, and I told you I didn't do it. And then she'll say, well, you know what, if you didn't do it, then I'm sorry that you didn't do it. So in my house, my mom enforced that, and I think the reason why she did that was because when she was coming up, she always stated that she wasn't given the opportunity to speak. They couldn't explain themselves. They better not question what's going on. They better not dare even think to open their mouth when they're being talked to. So my mom broke that generational curse then to stop that part, because she felt like sometimes when you have your kids so the term cowered down, then when something really is happening to them, they're afraid to tell because they already been instructed to keep their
Or
mouth
think you're gonna
quiet.
be mad at them.
Yeah, I think my mom was the same way. You just couldn't do it when it was
At
happening.
the time, yeah.
And with my kids, they can.
Yeah.
But when you come with it, you better come with it.
Yeah.
So when you come with it, you better come with some facts. You better come with it all, because and you better be respectful with it.
Yeah.
Like, it's your tone. I tell them, it's your tone.
Yes.
But with my mom, it was more so, let her calm down.
Yeah, right. And then go in there and
And then
explain.
I can go in there and talk to her.
Yeah.
So I don't think she wasn't like they was, like they was done. So she tried to change that somewhat. She just couldn't do it during that time. And then me, on the other hand, I do a lot of talking and I do a lot of question asking. And even when they do stuff, I'm a fuss. I'm a cuss. I'm gonna do it all.
Right.
But at the end of but it also comes with questions. Like, you don't just get yelled at in my house. It comes with questions. What were you thinking? And I'm not saying it. What word am I looking for? I'm not saying it just to be saying it. No, I really want to know, what was you thinking? What was your thought process? Like, you gonna have to tell me.
Yeah.
What was you thinking for real?
Let's break this down.
Yes, it's not rhetorical. It's what I'm trying to say. It's really.
Yeah.
What was your thought process?
Right.
Let's see, like, where.
Let me show you where you went wrong.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm with you on that.
That's
I do
how
that
I
with
do
my
that.
kids. I let my kids, because I grew up like I can come to my mom and talk to her. I didn't do it the way my kids do it now, but they are respectful. When they come to me, well, Mom, why is it I have to wash dishes? Well, that's not fair that I had to do such and such.
I'm not good on that
And
fair.
so,
Cause life isn't fair. That's my favorite thing.
Well,
so they can't be, like I said, you gotta come for real. You can't cover me with that wine and it's not, no.
well, you know that
life
it's not fair.
Look, they hear that. Look, they tell their own siblings that now. And like, life isn't fair. I'm like,
Don't go to mama with that.
well, see, when that it's not fair coming out is because technically it's something that you're probably punishing them on. and they are feeling like, well, that's not fair. Like just the other week, in my house, they have chores. They have a chore schedule. They have chore days. On Saturday, we had a family. We're cleaning up. We're washing clothes. They got wash days. They got all of this.
They ain't going. I still ain't put them calendars up to give them a chore schedule. Look, I got a calendar for every room. I keep saying I'm gonna do it.
And you keep saying you didn't do it. But they are kids, they're teenagers. They're gonna be just like how we were, even though they're in the new generation, they're still like us. They're still gonna skip out of doing something. They're gonna rebel on a couple of things. They're gonna feel like, well, it ain't a lot. It ain't a lot in the trash can. Yeah. The trash ain't really overflowing. It's just right at the top. But the trash needs to be taken out because in their mind, it's not full. It's not flowing over, so why should they have to take the trash out? The dishes, only 5 dishes in the sink. Why do I need to wash those 5 dishes? You can just let those stay in the dish. Or better yet, Mama, let me put them in the dishwasher. No, we don't use the dishwasher. Y'all broke that rule on the dishwasher.
Okay.
Because y'all not taking the dishes out of the sink. You know, exactly. So they're not putting that perspective, but they're still teenagers. So I feel like they should be able to question, well, why is it? Or no, it's not fair. And that's where you, as a parent, you need to explain to them, like, hey, the reason why it's not fair because XYZ, you didn't do what you were supposed to do, and this is why. This is consequences. You need to be taught consequences. And that's what I do with my kids. I not only do I lay down the rules in this house, and there's rules, but it's really structure. It's not really rules. Shouldn't even say rules. It's structure. Every house should have some type of structure. It might not all have to be the same, but some type of structure.
I tried gentle parenting, and I told them gentle parenting don't work with y'all. It don't. I tried.
It don't.
Y'all don't. You can
respond.
blink this out. I said y'all don't respond till I lose my shit. Like I've been gentle parenting.
Yeah.
That don't work. I'm done. Like
you trying to talk softly like me. I'd be like, okay, guys, why y'all come in here and do the dishes? And then after a while, there ain't nothing of the stuff you asked them to do. They're not doing. So now you yell, you better get in here and get these dishes done right now, like I said. Then that's when you get a response. And I'm like, what kind of I think so. When we were coming up, we didn't have to be fussed. We knew the dishes need to be washed. We knew the beds need to be fixed. The house need to be cleaned. The trash need to be taken out. Nobody had that
walking over it.
Yeah, nobody had to
that
tell
paper
us.
been there for 3 hours. You done walked by it 3 times. Like, so you done calculated all this and you didn't go pick it up.
I say that all the time to my kids.
It's always 3 times. Is it really 3 times that I walked over?
But it's safe to say. I think it's safe to say that we are different than before. Even though your mom may have been open, but as an overall family, there wasn't nobody really like. Well, what are you doing in your household? What are you doing in your household?
Exactly.
I think everybody automatically when they was around each other, it was never, I let my child talk. She better not say nothing to me. I knock the hell out of her.
But we never did it in public. Again, we could not question while it was happening.
Yeah.
You could talk to them after.
So that's the difference with us now. And then
with us now,
we can, me personally, in the moment that is happening, I catch myself. For the most part. 95% of the time, I'll catch myself and I'll walk away and I'm like, okay. And I'll come back and say, okay, now what's going on? You know what I mean? When we didn't have that opportunity before, then it was just like, damn, I'm gonna get knocked out.
Exactly.
But now, we at least we know now, you know what I'm saying, to take a step back and say, okay.
But we taught our kids to be
second.
respectful with it. I think it's a learning process too. Because we have taught them how to do it. Because they know if they come to us wrong, you finna get embarrassed in front of everybody in there.
Okay.
So, but if they come to us correct, we can have those kind of conversations and be like, okay, well, you're right, such and such, such and such. So I think, again, we have, by having that type of relationship and having those talks with them and doing it at home and in the middle of things, they know better. And they also know I shouldn't cross this line, or I shouldn't do it this way because I'm gonna get this reaction, which in turn I think help them as adults when they're in the workforce and anywhere else. You can't always snap and go off on folks. You gotta come correct in certain settings. Certain settings require different things. So
exactly.
And I wish, like, for me, I wish I did have the opportunity to talk through some things, like when things happened growing up. It was always, I guess my first instinct was always the thought of fear, like, my mom
That
gonna
was it
kill
for
me.
me.
Yeah,
That was
she's
it
gonna
for me.
kill me if I do this.
Mhm.
So that stopped me from doing a lot of stuff. But I wish there was the opportunity to talk more, because it would have given me the ability to have, what's the word I'm thinking? It would have given
Better
me problem
communication.
solving skills for myself
Mhm.
versus waiting for my mama to tell me how to handle it. You know what I'm saying?
No.
Or thinking, damn, I'm gonna get in trouble behind it. So I think, from like with me not having that open communication, it created for me to be a follower versus a leader. You see what I'm saying? I was developed into a leader because it was.
And a follower.
I mean, excuse me. Yeah, I was developed into being a follower because of the simple fact, like I was shut down. I wasn't allowed to talk. There's nothing to talk about. Do what I said. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I always look for that. What am I supposed to do? You
Right.
know?
Right.
So
I agree with that, because I was raised like that. My mom, I could talk to her sometimes, but a lot of times I just went with what she said because I didn't want to get in trouble. My mom was a popper. I didn't want to get slapped.
Yeah,
You know, I didn't want to upset her in any way and kind of disturb the balance of the house. And I always used to say, like, I wish I had a sibling. Like, you know, like
somebody to talk to.
Somebody
to
else-
blame it on.
somebody else that could go and do something so I could see how she would react.
Yeah.
And so at least I know how to, I was the only one.
Yeah.
So it was like, I would do stuff
Mhm.
and I'd be like, dang, I didn't know she was going to get that mad. You know
But see,
what I'm
I wasn't
saying?
even the only kid, but I was the baby. And
Mhm.
so by the time I got
You saw
older,
it.
the other
Them
kids
got in
they
trouble,
were
so-
gone. I always pride myself on like never pissing my mama off.
Right.
Because you saw it.
Because I saw what they did, like getting pregnant in high school. When Tanya got pregnant, it was like, okay, I'm not doing that. Because
Gotcha.
mama was so hurt by it. She was devastated by that.
Mhm.
So my thought process was, I'm going to finish high school without a baby. Now, could have got pregnant, but I didn't. Thank God. But that was my goal. Like, you finish school so I can make her proud for that.
Yeah.
Instead of me thinking, you know, I needed to do it for me.
Right.
My goal was just to do it for her. Like,
But that's twofold too, though, because your kids, if you raise them right, are always gonna do things to try to make you proud. Because I think my kids didn't do a lot of things because I go 0 to 100 real quick.
yeah.
I'm extra. Like when I come through with the punishments, baby,
Yeah.
they come down hard the first time. So I'm not gonna keep doing this with
Yeah.
you. So they always say I was extreme and
Yeah.
but it was to the point that
Kept it from happening again.
I'm extra.
Oh yeah, the kids do follow. Cause I remember when my kids were back in private school. You know, some of the kids would, you know, we would have these days which I enjoy. We would actually go on field trips, and not like public school. Public school, you have to sign and do a background check and all this stuff, and you know whatever. But in the private school, they actually let you interact. Like the parents, we would we look forward to these days. Like we would literally take off of work, we driving other people's kids in our cars to this field trip, and I would hear these kids, like their parents would be there. So of course now we're in their normal setting, because now you see the parent and the kid together, and they were like, oh, you be quiet, mom, or don't you talk to me like that, mom, or you don't do this
Right.
to mom, or they, oh man, there she go again, fussing. I had one kid say that. And so by my kids being around that environment, they started picking up some of those bad habits. So they would come home and they would resemble those things. And guess what? But I always tell people, you know, I still got that Carter in me. So
Okay.
that Carter in me is always there. It's like, yes, we did our generational breaks, but we still have that gene in us.
Baby,
that we
it ain't enough.
It ain't
It ain't enough for that. Cause we had those conversations. Now you know if you do that, you know what would happen.
Okay.
That's what I always tell mine, cause you know, like I said, my kids went to predominantly white schools, so it goes down.
Oh,
But guess what's not gonna happen?
Yeah.
I wish you would, and I really haven't had them try to pick that up. Because they be
I did.
like, my kids be like, oh my, I know that was me. They be over there talking about the kids, that was me. I know you would.
If that was me.
sure
Well,
would.
my mom had a fear instilled in me growing growing up that when I went to other people's house, I was so fearful of what my mama would do. When I went to other people's houses and I saw them talking to their mama, I'm in the corner like,
Yeah.
it's about to go down in here. Like, you talking to your mama like that? Like, you know what I'm saying? So I knew not to bring that mess back home.
I really do punish them to their personalities. And some of them, I don't have to spank. Some of them, it's this. And some of them, it's just a good, you know, I'm really disappointed in you, and I just cannot believe, and I just kind of put that in there.
I think I always wished my mom would do that, because I used to feel like such a sensitive child. Like, it just to know you was disappointed in me, like I'd be in my room crying. So when I actually did get popped or hit, I was just like devastated. Like, dang, like, you know, like I really brought her out of character today. Like, you know, like,
and I was scared of my mom. I'm still right to this day. I'm grown, and I'm still scared of that woman. I wish when she get her tone, I be like, let me grab my phone. Okay, y'all call me when she calm down. She still, my older brother got a lot of discipline because of his behavior. He would do things that would cause him to get a beat down in this house. But because he did so much wrong, he gave me the example of what I should not do.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't do it because I knew what response I'm going to get if I do. You're right. When it comes to your kids, you have to discipline them according to who they are. I'm a no nonsense when it comes to school.
Me
You
too.
will not
Ain't raising no dummies.
You're not going to school to show out.
School is so important.
I better not get no phone calls talking
Okay.
about you did X, Y, and Z. Guess what? I'm
Okay.
coming up to the school.
I would beg and plead with my teacher, please don't call my mama. I remember I convinced the teacher one time, just call my grandma. Like, she at home all day. My mama at work, you don't really want to bother her.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah,
Woo!
but you know.
So do you think we are, because, you know, all of us attended college and everything, do you think, you know, that was, what made us do that? Do you think because we didn't see it? Like, what made you do it?
What made me go to college?
Yeah, what made it be,
I feel like if I
to
went
finish,
to college,
not just go into finish.
I feel like why I went and finished was because I felt like I would have a good job, make good money, and I felt like my mom would be proud of me. Like, that was one of my main reasons for wanting to get a degree, was to make her happy, you know, and then to not just be at the house or collecting welfare. Like, I felt like people with college degrees and they didn't have to be on welfare and live in the ghetto, like stuff like that. So I didn't want to be that type of person, and I wanted to please my mom. So I went to college.
What about you?
Originally because I was actually brought up in the hood or whatever, I wanted to, that was my way to get out. Like, I didn't, there was no other way.
Mm-hmm.
There was no other way. That was the only way to prevent what I had already been through, the way you raised up. So I felt like that was the only way out, was to do it.
Yeah.
And I mean, really, that was it. And of course, to, you know, make your parents proud, but it was essentially just to, because that was the way to get away from the normal life. So let's do that. Let's get away and go live your life. And my theory was to always get away from the usual things. Like, get away from what you familiar with. Go figure out. Go see what else is out there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, for me, so in my household, it was pretty much like a structured plan, you know, and it really, in my house, our structure was a little different. Like, my mom was the disciplinary, but my dad was the informational one. So when it came down to like education, my dad had his bachelor's degree. My mom had went back to school for her technical school. So they really enforced that you need to go to college, you need to do this, because my dad always said, you know, because my dad is from Africa. And so when he talked about how the struggle is in Africa, like how some, like his siblings, out of all his siblings, he was the only one that was allowed to go to school.
Wow.
And he explained that. He said, you know, just imagine having 5 siblings and only one of them can go to school and actually get an education. He said because that's all they can afford. So they have to choose a child to do that with. Then on top of that too, my dad you know, I also watched my dad work hard. You know, he started out at Domino's Pizza, working, I mean, 7 days
I
a
remember that.
week, and trying to paying the bills in the house. And then one day, my mom, even though she didn't have a bachelor's degree, she had some type of education. My mama came up with this business plan. You know what? You know how we're gonna get out of all of this and really set ourselves and do what we want to do for our kids? We're gonna start a business. With his bachelor's degree and her technical degree, they were able to come together and build a company.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, that what made me want to go to school, because I saw the positive effect that going to school, getting a college degree could get me. And the good thing is, when I decided to go, I went through the military. I actually enlisted into the Marine Corps. Like, literally, I was supposed to have left in May, right after I graduated. I actually had signed my contract in March, my senior year, and that was my main focus of why I joined the Marine Corps, was because I wanted to go to school, and they were willing to pay a portion of, at that time it was 75%. But after 6 months of me being in there, they started paying 100%. So I'm going to school for free. I'm getting a paycheck. You know, I mean, in the military, you get a paycheck on the 1st and the 15th, no matter what. You got a place. They provide you a place to stay, so you're not out there finding an apartment. They'll provide you a cafeteria to go to that you don't have to go hungry. You ain't got to worry about where your food coming from.
Nice.
So
Nice.
I used that opportunity to get my education. I really came to that concept because I wanted to build a business. I had already in my mind that not only do I want to be an instructional teacher, I also want to build a business that I can pass down to the generation behind me.
Yeah, and you got that, and that's a generational benefit, because you taught about your parents to have their own business, and you now have your own business. So I that's good, because I wish I was that kind of person. And
I like that generational benefit.
Generational benefits.
And then, so for me, as far as going to college, again, I was a teen mom, so it was a short-term sacrifice. Well, I always wanted to go to college, but what really pushed me to go and finish was, since I was a mother, I knew that if I did not go and I'm working, in order to take care of my kid, I would have to work a lot of hours. And if I worked a lot of hours, I wouldn't be around. So by me getting a degree, I can get a job working your 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and have time with my kid. Because I was one of those kids when my aunt had me, I would be home by myself because she was working. So I would, and so I never wanted that I was a good kid, so I never got into anything after school or anything like that. But what if I wasn't?
Right.
She wasn't around because she had to work these other jobs so she can keep a roof over her head. So that was my main reason for going, for finishing college. And it was a lot of sacrifice, because I was a full-time college student, a full-time employer, full-time mom. But it was hard. But I was thinking, this is just for the short term, because when they're old enough, I'm going to be around. So I could do that. And also, I wanted to live, and I wanted to own one of the houses in the neighborhood that we lived in, because my mom, even though we were on Section 8, when they started doing housing and made it open to you can pick wherever you want to go, she would always find a nice house and a nice area, because she wanted us to go to nice schools.
Right.
And trick-or-treating or just walking through the neighborhood, you see these houses and things like that, and I wanted that. So I just feel like that was my best bet, because I did want to do Section 8. I feel like even when I had like my daughter and I qualified for some of that stuff, I still wouldn't do it, because they have no respect for your job or your schedule or anything. You're beholden to them. If they need you, if you got up home at today, they just gonna send you a letter. You got up home at this day, this time. You gotta be there, or you're not gonna get it.
Yeah.
So I just did not want that. I did not want that. I wanted to own my own house, and I was so happy when I was a homeowner at 25.
Yeah.
That's when I got my first home, And it was hard because my mom never owned anything. Our
Mhm.
grandparents never owned anything. And I was grateful that your mom did. So since your mom had their own house, I could call her and ask some questions, because she was the only one in our family that owned the house.
Yeah, she's
Right.
the only one that
Right.
So it was like, I mean, I knew I didn't want to pay. Like I said, I'm one of those analytical thinkers, and I knew I didn't want to pay. I knew I wanted to live in nice areas, but to live in nice area to rent, I was gonna be paying $1,000, because I had to have a garage to have two little girls.
Yeah.
I need to go park in my garage now, run my car in because I need to reverse on somebody.
But I think that was a part of the reason too why I went to college, because I saw the difference. Like my mom moved to North Dallas like when I was in the 8th grade, and I saw the difference immediately between South and North Dallas. And I was like, I want to live up here. I like this. I learned when I went to that white school. They taught me how to. I did actually cook in my homemade class.
Mhm.
They taught me how to sew. Like I was learning stuff. Like we did that parachute thing in the gym.
Mhm.
Like we didn't do none of that stuff when I was over in the South. So I was
Mhm.
like, I actually learned things, and I actually felt like I was learning things that would benefit me throughout my whole life.
Yeah.
And I never felt like that growing up in South Dallas and Oak Cliff.
Yeah, and
I
we
just felt
didn't
like I
move-
was in survival mode.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
we didn't move to like a predominantly white area. We would move to mixed areas, but it's saying black people own these homes. You know what I'm saying? That was the difference. See, we lived like in DeSoto and
Right.
Rowlett, and like we lived when we. What else did we say? Those are the two, Rowlett and DeSoto, when I was in school.
Mm-hmm.
DeSoto at that time was black middle class.
Yeah.
Right.
People, it still is now
It
too.
is.
Mhm.
But you saw black people owning and
Nice houses, big houses.
nice
over there.
houses.
Yeah.
Because they lived outside of Dallas, so they could afford a bigger home.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just one of those. It was good to see. It was good to see.
Yeah.
And so and now I'm in that phase where my older two, grew up with my mom and we was there some of the time or whatever. So with these younger ones, they don't have no idea on how
No.
bad it
Yeah.
can be.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of in that phase with them. Like I'm gonna have to start taking them to see because they don't know. They to spoil little.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
They don't.
They spoil.
Yeah.
They're not spoiled, but they don't know.
Yeah.
They'll go leave $100 hoverboard at the park,
Yeah.
but
Oh no.
it's because it's gonna be there the
And they'll
next
still
day.
be
Yeah.
there though.
But
We know.
you can't do that in Dallas.
We
So
know.
I feel like I'm gonna have to teach them that because they're gonna get out into the real world and not be street smart.
Mm.
And that's one of the things that it is a generational curse, but it's also a generational benefit because people out there is ruthless. And
Okay.
you gotta learn.
It's survival of the fittest.
Yeah.
And I do agree with you on
I
that.
tell all my kids, especially when they go off to college, make connections.
Mhm.
These people are gonna be in positions. Keep in touch. You are here to network. This is your network. And even high school, I went to a mixed high school. That is the network. And them being out there isn't. You need a network. It's always about who you know. I don't care.
Mhm.
Every job is about who you know.
Yeah.
I see it every day. I see it every day.
I love the diversity. Like I said, when we moved up to North Dallas and I was in the school with the white kids and stuff, I loved it. I loved being around different kind of people.
Yeah.
And when we
So what
moved
was
back,
familiar
I
with?
was just like,
Yeah.
I don't want to come back. we had moved on up like George and Whitney. Why we back? And so I was just like, I couldn't wait to get to college and get back into that diverse, kind of area with different people and learn different stuff. And I think that's a lot of the reasons why I kind of started wanting to make more Hispanic friends, white friends, and not just black friends, because I felt like I could learn something from them that I probably don't get just from the black perspective. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
I started getting into things in middle school. So my thought process was, let me get my kids away from here before middle school, because that's where you really start being introduced to stuff. And so that was my thinking process. Let me get them away. And by the time the oldest one got in middle school, then we moved out here. I loved it. It was different. You know, I lived it, but they had never lived it. So it was funny because even when we moved out here, they was like, "Mama, whoa, there's no trash on the side of the road." Like,
It's a shocker. It shocks you.
Yeah, the highways are clean, and I never paid attention to that. And I started looking around like, oh my God, there's not any trash over here. I didn't think about that, but now that they are older, they're like, Mama, can we go back to Oak Cliff? Like, it's nothing. Now, I hate that they don't get to experience our culture in high school with the bands and the football games and
that was my favorite part
fun,
about Carter.
Friday Night Lives and all of that. I hate that they didn't get to experience any of that because they don't get to experience it in the school they go to because it's not, us. It's but
it's a show band.
Absolutely right. So they don't really have the interest. Like with the oldest being in her senior year, I'm like, this is your best year. Like, you should be having an amazing time right now. And she just focused, I just want to get out of here. Because there's nothing that captures her interest. She's like, Mama, there's nothing here. Yeah. And I'm just thinking like, I brought y'all out here, but I brought you out here for a better education, for a safer place to live, for all of those benefits that come with it, but at a trade-off of being away from what I really wanted them to be exposed to with our culture, with our people. And so, but then I remember being on that side, and it's a lot better now, but when I was in high school, there was not a lot of push to go to college. There was not a lot of push to the ultimate thing was
now
to
they got
finish
everything in DISD. They can get their associates.
That's what I'm saying.
They got everything.
So back then, the goal was you finish high school, you amazing. If you did that without a baby, you amazing.
Right.
And so now it's popular now. Everybody they got like you said, college and high school and all that good stuff now. And so I don't know if those opportunities would have been there if we would have stayed. I'm not sure. But I was more focused on their education than anything. Is why I was like, let me get them in a better area. And then when we got out here, they're behind.
And that's kind of how it is going to school out here.
Yeah.
So
there's no interest.
But then everything popping out there, they see what's popping out there online. And school really is what they're showing online
and
out there.
is winning these championships. And
I let them I let them watch some football games. Just normal, and the band, the drill team, and the cheerleaders. They watched all of that. And it was like.
And see, my kids knew about it because I used to still do a lot of community service. So we would be in Dallas. They would see Dallas. And that's why I say I got to get back because my younger ones don't know. And I need them to see and appreciate it and know because they really will enjoy it. It's just what it is.
Let me know when they leave that hoverboard in the park because I can come teach them a lesson.
But at least
that's true.
But in my case though, my kids get that benefit of learning all of that stuff because they have cousins that still live.
Yeah. Well, true. And I can speak for that because like when you were saying like how they were feeling that, I felt that way when I was a kid because I lived in a pretty nice place. It was suburban. It was clean, good school. But I always had the urge. I want to go over there to Oak Cliff and
I always want to be at your house.
Exactly. So I got the opportunity to live both worlds. I was able to not only live in the world that I really am living in, but I was also able to enjoy what other people are living in. And my mom made sure that she enforced that in my life. As my brother and sister, she did things differently, but with me, I got the experience. So with my kids, I wanted them to have the same thing because it's a good feeling.
And it is because you can go overboard in trying to break those generational curses because what happens, they forget where they come from, and not only that, they could start going backwards. Yeah. So they can start. Oh, I'm liking this fast because they never been around it. They really don't know. That's when you get them rich kids. You seen the rich kids, they go selling drugs. You ain't even got to do all of that. They need the thrill. You need the thrill of it, and you want to experience it because they're seeing. the hood.
That's why a lot of the girls
is-
end up
is-
with the bad boys. 'Cause
Yeah.
It's on
They
TV.
wanna-
They
they wanna
see the
experience
fun, they see all of that, and they'll do it.
I'm not ready for my kids to be dealing with racial slurs
And
and
your son
being-
learning how to drive.
and then my son out, he's in the driving stage and he's gonna be by himself, and I got to worry about my child having to deal with discrimination and all of that, and having to be afraid of the police, or because all of this stuff has now occurred from when I was a kid to now. I know some things were still happening, but now it's like in your face. You gotta address it. It's like you gotta prepare your child to walk out the door for life. So I gotta prepare my son to be prepared for all of that waiting on him on the other side of the door. So, but the good thing about it is now that I'm in Midlothian and I have been there for almost a year now, it actually surprised me. There's a lot of African Americans in Midlothian.
Okay.
There's a lot of African Americans in their school.
Yeah.
There's a lot. That's
South is middle class black.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're taking over.
Exactly.
It's
I really like I tell my kids, even though right now my kids they so used, they had like a variety of different things. They got to be the Christian life, they got the private school roughneck life, and then now they got this conservative mixture life, and and I'm like you, I want my kids to be out there thriving. Mama got a game, I got this and I got that, and of course I got one. And I don't know if it's just girls. Girls are just very outgoing than boys. So my son is kind of like, I think he's still trying to find himself, and I'm trying to help him. I'm up at the church. Hey, Anthony, can you put my son on your Wednesday class so he can, I'm trying to help him with his communication and his interpersonal skills, because I don't want him to be that kid or that person that's sitting over in the corner while everybody having
It's
fun.
hard though, cause he changed school. He changed schools in high school.
Yeah.
So that's hard. That is hard on any kid. When you didn't grow up with a lot of these people didn't forge relationships from elementary,
right.
and you're just coming in.
Yeah.
That's definitely how I felt in the 8th grade when I came up here, because I had been in the South the whole time. So I already had my friends that I've been knowing since like 5th grade and all that stuff. And even when I came back, they remembered me. They were like, "Oh, hey, where you been?" Like, y'all. So they definitely are forming relationships with those kids, and like they know the difference between, like you said, where they are and where they going as far as how they're being treated. Like, oh, I'm the new kid on the block over here. Like, you know what I'm saying?
So back to the subject, to try to break generational curses, and knowing the only reason why I knew about home ownership being what it could be was because of friends I made over the time. So we had a friend that would buy their parents, when they got married, their parents gave them a down payment for their house, so they got a house. So that was their starter home. So when they decided to move somewhere, they would sell their house, put their money in the other house or whatever, but they was making money every time they moved.
Yeah.
So they was able to afford, like they live in Prosper now, and they used to live in Katy, outside of Houston. So when they sold, they had so much money that they bought this house. So when they bought this house, they had all the equity, they put it in the house, and he started a business with that money. So he was able to, in his sound system business or whatever, that does great. So I learned at that point that I probably won't make a lot of money to afford a huge house, but what I can do is buy a starter house and let it get up, and get $100+ grand of equity in it, sell it, and then put that down on a bigger house to make it to where I can afford it. And that's what I ended up doing with this house. Like I told you how much that house was, so I told my kids, like, you graduate college, stay with me for a year. You don't have to pay no bills. You pay your insurance.
Yeah.
I still pay their cell phone bills. So pay your insurance bill, which what $100. Well, back then they only had little costs. It was like $100, $150. Pay your insurance. Save up your money so you can have a down payment to put on your house. I don't have money to just give you to put on your house. What I can do is offer you somewhere to stay rent free. You got a college, you can make some good money, and then in a year, either you can pay, if you got student loans, pay student loans off. If you don't, you pay your home off. Pay money down on the home.
And that's good.
And that's home ownership.
That's good that you're talking about financial responsibility that early because nobody ever taught me financial responsibility.
Yeah.
I never
They
knew.
did.
I thought good credit was a myth. Like I never knew like I could have good credit. I could.
And see, that's the thing. I
Yeah.
started them with good credit. Like, I would put them on my cards, and I would we did credit unions, and I would go open up a line of credit. Like, I got Leah a car. It was some cheap. It was
Yeah.
probably like $5,000. Instead of just paying my bonus on it, it was, I'm going to get a loan. I'm going to keep it for a year. I'm going to put the nation on this loan.
Mm-hmm.
So you're on my credit cards and you on this loan. So when Denasia got out of college, that's how she was able to buy the Tesla. She had the credit for it, and she was able to do it and have this crazy like 2 or 3% interest rate, no cosigner, no nothing.
Yeah.
She did that all on her own.
Nice.
So, but I knew I'm not in the. By the time my little ones come up, I will have a slush of money. But right now, I don't have the slush of money. But what I can give you are the tools, and that's what I tell them all the time.
Having the money anyway.
Okay.
That's what I try to teach them. Like, my goal in life is to give you the tools to be successful. I'm gonna help you through college. I'm gonna let you stay here for a year. I'm gonna build your credit, and then when you get out into the world,
So to you.
you have to do it. So
You take these generational benefits and do what you're supposed to do.
You know what I'm saying? Because I know I didn't have to. My credit was better than my mama credit because I had 2 credit cards out of in college. So when I went to go get a car, I needed a co-signer because I just had those cards for like a year. So I needed a co-signer because I needed extra income.
Mm-hmm.
But she made my rate like my first car rate was like 10%. And so, but I was making my mama credit good because I was paying my car note and everything like that. But I learned then, like, oh, okay, this is how this works. And then I knew, like, if I had money to really, I knew what it took to get a house. So I knew, okay, I need to teach my kids they need to have that 20% so they're not paying their mortgage insurance because that's saving you $200-300 a month.
Yeah.
And your credit right, you get a good interest rate, you can afford a house. Because I knew I was paying $1,000 for a nice apartment. I know I can only imagine what apartment's gonna be going at now. So why throw away that $1,500 on an apartment when I got all the money plus some that I paid in my house when I stayed at the other house? I got back when I sold it. So I basically was living for free for those years. Or no, I was putting money in a saving pot for my another house.
Your
You know
money
what
was
I'm saying?
working for you.
My money was working for me.
That's
So
good.
that's one of those things I try to do because I might not have the financials for the money, the slush money to give to you, but I can give you the tools to do right.
Yeah.
And then it's your choice. You have good credit, you can get.
A
You
lot
can
of
take
times
out loans
kids
to
are
do
they
other
impatient.
different things.
They impatient. They don't want to, like, they want to see if they want to sometimes challenge what you're telling them.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
more
they
so
want to.
they want to. We was there too. You want to do things your way.
Ready,
Yeah.
yeah. Like I'm finally grown. I can make this decision.
Because sometimes you don't even
So,
recognize
yeah.
that you need those tools until you
Yeah.
get older. Because when you're
you're
younger,
gonna be
you're like,
saying that I wish I would.
Yeah.
Like, I tell them all the time, y'all ain't gonna ever be able to say, my mama just put me out and I had to figure things out for myself. Because I had to do it. I had to figure out everything. My mama didn't know nothing. Don't know nothing about credit. She didn't know nothing about saving shit. She couldn't even get a bank account because she didn't fuck
Yeah.
the banks. Like, it was
yeah.
crazy. Like, I figured everything. It was bump my head.
Yeah.
Fixing my credit and making sure stuff that they did when I was younger wasn't still showing up. Because again, I told you I was 25 when I got my stuff. You know,
Yeah.
they did some stuff for my 18,
Right.
19, 20.
Right.
They was doing some
And a
stuff.
few
Yeah.
cable
And
bills
they
in
did that
there.
girl TXU. I had all kinds of. I had cell phones. I had like Sprint. I had all them cell
Oh
phones.
my God.
Like. And I was
That's
like,
that-
I only had 18. Like I
But
only
see,
had
that's
this
like
one phone my
me.
whole life. Like I've only had this phone number my whole life. So all the other stuff is them.
Yeah.
Thank y'all so much for coming and sitting down with me and talking about breaking generational curses. I think that in the future we'll probably get together again for a part 2 because we didn't even touch on all of our topics. And what I took most away from this conversation today was generational benefits. I really think that's something that, you know, a lot of people don't talk about. We're always talking about the curses, but not the benefits. So I think we'll probably harp on that a little bit more. And like I said, I appreciate y'all coming.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.